Welcome to True Crime Threads, where real-life mysteries unravel thread by thread. In today's story, a lavish Dubai wedding turns deadly when a shocking secret comes to light on the very first night. In the heart of Dubai's luxury district, 52-year-old businessman Karim El-Dahan was a well-known name. Wealthy, respected, and a widower for over a decade, Karim had everything except companionship. After years of solitude and business-focused life, he finally decided it was time to remarry and find emotional balance once again. He reached out to a discreet and exclusive marriage agency that specialized in matching high-profile clients. That's where he was introduced to 26-year-old Lina Qureshi, a Pakistani woman with captivating beauty, refined manners, and a story that seemed tailor-made for a second chance. Lina claimed to be a fashion graduate from Lahore, who had recently relocated to the with hopes of starting a new chapter in life. Her soft-spoken nature, humble attitude, and cultured presentation instantly impressed Karim. Their first meetings were formal, brief, and mostly supervised by the agency. Despite the age gap, Karim felt drawn to her. She was elegant, respectful, and presented herself with a quiet grace that he had not seen in years. In her, he saw not just a partner, but perhaps someone who would add warmth to his otherwise structured life. Lina appeared grateful, eager to adjust to his lifestyle, and never once raised concerns about his age or expectations. That only increased Karim's confidence in the match. Within a few weeks, the marriage was arranged. Karim spared no expense on the celebration. Held at a five-star resort overlooking the coastline, the wedding was a grand affair. Golden lights adorned the venue. Fresh flowers were flown in from Europe, and elite guests from business, politics, and media circles attended. The bride wore a custom-designed gown, and Karim stood proudly beside her, appearing fulfilled, despite whispers among some guests about the significant age difference and how quickly everything was moving. No one dared question him openly. During the festivities, Lina remained composed and graceful. She stayed close to Karim, performed all the rituals, and smiled politely through endless photo sessions. Everything about the night gave the impression of a fairy tale beginning. The couple left early, heading to Karim's penthouse apartment, located in one of Dubai's most prestigious towers. The newlyweds entered the apartment around midnight, and the security guard on duty noted how calm everything seemed. A few hours later, that calm would shatter completely. By morning, the unthinkable had happened. Lina's lifeless body was discovered in the master bedroom. Still dressed in her wedding gown, the security team had been alerted after Karim failed to respond to multiple calls. When the apartment was unlocked, a chilling silence filled the space. There were no signs of forced entry, no immediate clues to suggest what had happened. But one thing was clear: Karim had vanished. The incident shocked everyone who had attended the wedding just hours before. No one could process how a night filled with celebration and joy had turned into a crime scene. The press quickly picked up the story, and rumors swirled across social media. Who was Lina Qureshi really, and what had driven Karim to disappear? As authorities began their investigation, it became clear that the fairy tale marriage had hidden layers that no one had seen coming. The morning after the wedding, the atmosphere in Karim El-Dahan's penthouse was no longer one of celebration, but one of silence and dread. Lina was found dead in the master bedroom, her body on the floor, motionless, still in her wedding gown. There were no signs of a struggle, but her expression was frowning in a mixture of shock and fear. The luxury suite that had been decorated for a romantic wedding night had become a sealed crime scene. The security guard, who had seen the couple enter the building hours earlier, reported Karim missing. His car was gone, his phone unreachable, and no one had heard from him since the night before. Dubai police were notified immediately. Due to Karim's high-profile status, a specialized unit was assigned to the case. What began as a simple welfare check had escalated into a murder investigation, and the urgency grew as the hours passed without any sign of Karim. Investigators quickly turned their attention to Lina's background, hoping to uncover something that could explain what had happened inside that apartment. They started by verifying the details she had provided to the marriage agency. Her claimed university had no records under her name, The ID she used to register with immigration matched only partially with actual documents. Travel history was minimal and appeared to begin just a year ago. The agency she had used turned out to be operating from a temporary address. When visited, the office was empty, and the listed company had no online presence. It was as if she had emerged from thin air, constructed only from carefully chosen fragments. Digging further, investigators accessed Lena's social media activity. Her accounts were recently created, filled with generic posts, and followed mostly inactive profiles. Her photos were well curated but sparse, offering little insight into her personal life. Her phone, recovered from the bedroom, had been wiped clean just days before the wedding. No personal messages, call logs, or browsing history remained. It was becoming increasingly clear that Lena had put effort into hiding something. The mystery deepened when police interviewed staff from the hotel where the wedding took place. One of the makeup artists who had helped Lena prepare for the ceremony mentioned overhearing her speak in a different dialect, not consistent with her claimed city of origin. A hotel employee also reported seeing her nervously pacing near the bathroom hours before the ceremony began. These observations were subtle but suggested that Lena might not have been who she claimed to be. Still, nothing explained the sudden violence. There was no sign of forced entry, and no valuables were missing. There was no evidence of an outside party entering the apartment. The lack of defensive wounds or external trauma led forensic experts to believe that the incident had been personal, likely driven by an emotional trigger rather than external motives. The breakthrough came when the investigation team turned to the building's security system. Kareem's penthouse, like many high-end residences in Dubai, was equipped with a discreet surveillance setup. Cameras monitored the entryways, hallways, and some interior rooms. Investigators retrieved the footage and began the slow process of reviewing Kareem's final hours in the apartment. What they found only raised more questions. Investigators discovered that Kareem's penthouse had a silent surveillance system installed, one that recorded high-definition footage without any visible indicators. It had been part of his home's advanced security design, typical for high-net-worth individuals in the region. The footage stored on the internal system became the central focus of the investigation. What it revealed in the hours leading up to Lena's death was both disturbing and puzzling. At approximately 1:30 a.m., Kareem was seen entering his private study alone. He carried his laptop, moved stiffly, and appeared tense. He sat at his desk and began typing. Moments later, he minimized a window and opened a folder, followed by a long pause in his movements. His facial expression shifted from confusion to what looked like disbelief. For nearly 20 minutes, he remained in front of the screen without moving much. Then he began pacing across the room, holding his head and breathing heavily. At 2:15 a.m., Kareem exited the study and made his way to the master bedroom. The camera in the hallway captured his fast strides and clenched fists. He disappeared into the room, and moments later returned, this time holding what looked like Lena's phone. He threw it onto a side table in the living room and sat her down briefly, then stood up again, restless. He looked out through the large glass windows but didn't appear calm. His actions were erratic and anxious. At 2:26 a.m., Lena came into view. She was wearing her wedding gown, her hair still styled from the ceremony. She walked through the hallway slowly, looking in the direction Kareem had gone. Her body language was hesitant, almost cautious. She seemed to be following him. That was the last time she appeared on any of the recorded footage. After that, the files went blank. The camera stopped recording from exactly 2:28 a.m. onwards. A technical audit confirmed that the system had been manually disabled. It was a hidden process, requiring knowledge of the internal controls, not something that could be done accidentally. Kareem had likely done it himself. The timing of the shutdown was too specific to be dismissed as a coincidence. Digital forensics attempted to recover the missing files. Much of the footage had been overwritten or encrypted, but one image was recovered from the laptop Kareem had used earlier that night. It was a screenshot taken just before 2 a.m., captured from a paused video. The image showed a younger version of Lena, different hairstyle, Different name used on the website's metadata, but unmistakably the same person. The site host in the video was linked to a hidden network, not accessible by ordinary browsers. Investigators traced it back to an Eastern European domain flagged in previous criminal investigations. It appeared that Karim had accessed it through a link buried in Lena's deleted email drafts. The recovered screenshot showed her in the background of what seemed to be a recruitment meeting later confirmed to be connected to illegal trafficking. While the content of the video itself remained lost, the implication was clear. Karim had discovered something that shattered his understanding of who Lena really was. Whatever he saw was enough to cause an emotional breakdown. Within 30 minutes of discovering the footage, Lena was dead and Karim had vanished. The screenshot led investigators down a dark and unexpected path. It became the key to unlocking the real identity of the woman known as Lena Qureshi. Through image matching technology and collaboration with international law enforcement databases, the face in the screenshot was eventually matched to a woman named Aisha Kamar, who had been linked to a criminal investigation in Eastern Europe 5 years earlier. The match wasn't immediate, but further analysis of biometric markers confirmed that Lena and Aisha were the same person. Aisha Kamar had been a suspected operative in a human trafficking ring operating between Romania and Moldova. Her role wasn't that of a victim, but someone who had acted as a recruiter under the cover of a modeling agency. The group had lured young women with promises of international careers, only to trap them in a hidden network that exploited them. Aisha was never officially charged, as she disappeared shortly after a major police raid dismantled part of the operation. Authorities had lost track of her after she fled the country using forged documents. It appeared that after years of silence, she had resurfaced under a new identity, carefully created and protected. The name Lena Qureshi, along with her fabricated history, had been used to blend into Dubai's immigrant population. She kept a low profile, avoided attention, and used a fake portfolio to get accepted by the marriage agency that eventually connected her to Karim. Her plan seemed to have been executed without flaws until Karim grew suspicious. Karim, known for his meticulous nature in business, had reportedly started noticing inconsistencies even before the wedding. A former employee who was close to him told investigators that Karim had quietly asked a private investigator to verify some of Lena's background details. There had been minor red flags documents that looked perfect, a graduation certificate without verification, and small changes in her story when she talked about her past. But nothing had fully convinced him of anything sinister until the night of the wedding. Lena's phone, which Karim had tossed aside before the camera stopped, was later examined by digital experts. Though it had been wiped, remnants of deleted emails revealed a conversation draft with someone using an encrypted account. The message referenced a new life and asked for assistance in securing an overseas passport. Though the context wasn't entirely clear, it hinted that Lena had not completely left her past behind and may have been planning another escape. The timeline suggested that Karim accessed Lena's deleted files and uncovered her real identity within hours after their wedding ceremony. The emotional shock of discovering that the woman he had just married had a dark and dangerous history, coupled with the betrayal of her hidden intentions, likely triggered his breakdown. His disappearance after the murder was not simply a flight from guilt but appeared to be part of a desperate attempt to process what he had uncovered. The revelation of Lena's true past sent ripples through Dubai's high society. Many who had attended the wedding expressed disbelief, unable to reconcile the graceful bride they had seen with the criminal identity now exposed. The search for Karim intensified as authorities closed in, believing that he had more secrets to reveal. Karim was found 3 days later in Oman, attempting to flee across the border in a rented vehicle under a different name. He had altered his appearance slightly, shaving his head and beard, and was carrying a forged identification card. The authorities intercepted him based on surveillance from highway checkpoints and alerts issued across exit points. Once in custody, he did not resist arrest. During the initial interrogation, Karim admitted to killing Lena He told investigators that the discovery of her past had broken him, that everything he believed about her had been a lie. In his statement, he described feeling trapped, betrayed, and emotionally shattered. However, as the forensic report was finalized, Kareem's account began to unravel. The autopsy reviewed traces of sedatives in Lena's bloodstream, indicating she had been drugged before her death. The doses suggested that she had been rendered unconscious, or at the very least severely weakened, before the fatal injury occurred. The blunt force trauma to the back of her skull was consistent with a heavy object found in the apartment, a marble statue that had traces of blood and hair embedded in its base. The precision and force of the blow contradicted the idea of a spontaneous act of rage. The digital timeline presented more evidence of playing. Kareem had accessed encrypted files nearly 2 hours before the attack. He had searched for keywords related to Lena's alternate identity, browsed legal articles on self-defense and criminal sentencing, and even checked how long it might take to cross the border into Oman. Investigators concluded that he had time to consider his actions. The timeline of his online activity showed intention, not impulse. In court, Kareem's legal team portrayed him as a man overwhelmed by emotional trauma. They emphasized his spotless record, his reputation, and the intensity of betrayal he experienced. They argued that his mental state had collapsed under the weight of the truth he had uncovered. The prosecution, however, presented a different narrative. They showed how Kareem had used his wealth and resources not only to investigate Lena, but also to control the situation entirely. From disabling the security footage to sedating her, each step pointed toward premeditation. The trial lasted for months, capturing the attention of the public across the Gulf region and beyond. Debates erupted over whether Kareem was a grieving husband, pushed beyond his limits, or a man who took justice into his own hands. The media painted him in both lights: a powerful tycoon with a dark temper and a heartbroken man facing an unimaginable reality. But the court focused only on the evidence. In the end, Kareem was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison, with no possibility of early release. The judge called it a case where truth was met with violence, and where justice had to follow law, not emotion. Lena, or Aisha, was buried under her assumed name, her real past acknowledged only in sealed court records. Her full story remained incomplete. Whether she had truly escaped her old life or was planning something new would never be known. Two lives collided under a web of secrets, and both ended in destruction.